Hi, I'm Anne Pollard, and this is the reading of my book, Cleo's Fabulous Adventures, The Realm of the Woods. Chapter 26, Xavier the Xenops. Bacchus turned to begin the ascent back to Middle World. Cleo and Azrael followed his lead. As they neared the cave entrance, Bacchus looked back to Cleo and said, "Cleo, you saw the tree roots when we were descending. Take a closer look now." Cleo looked up and saw the labyrinth of roots now above her head. "They really are amazing, Bacchus," said Cleo. "Yes," said Bacchus, "they symbolize the connection to all things, and they're connected to each other through their roots. Did you know that trees can nurse each other by sending electrical currents through their root systems? And they will keep ancient stumps alive for centuries by feeding them a sugary substance through their roots. Their connection is very strong, and that should be honored. Remember what you see here." They reached the mouth of the cave and stepped back to the middle world. Bacchus found the new path that led from the cave and began to walk. The landscape became quite tropical. There were large trees with lots of branches and vegetation and animals all around. As the path led them by a large tree, they could hear a fast, chattering trill from one of the branches. Bacchus stopped and looked up. He smiled as he saw Xavier sitting on a branch, chattering. "Hello, Xavier," shouted Bacchus. Xavier looked down and saw the visitors. He stopped his chattering and called out to Bacchus. "Bacchus, so glad you're here. This is much better than that musty old cave." Bacchus laughed. "Cleo," he said, "this is Xavier." "Nice to meet you, Xavier," said Cleo. "If I might say, you are so exotic. I don't think I have ever seen a bird quite like you." Xavier let out a trill and said, "Well, thank you, Cleo. So nice to finally meet you. Yes, I am probably something you have never seen. I am a Xenops." Cleo looked closer at this beautiful bird. It was only about 3 inches long, but had the most beautiful coloring. His body feathers were mostly tan with some black and orange painted on his wings. His head had a white stripe under his eyes and a tan stripe over them. His little beak was wedge-shaped and the tip was turned slightly up. He had a rather long tail. "And you have good timing," said Xavier. "I was just finishing up some foraging." "Cleo," Xavier continued, "Wakan was just talking about connectedness. What do you think he meant by that?" "Well," said Cleo, "we were talking about how angels and animal spirits were connected, so I guess that's what he meant." "Yes, indeed, that is one part," said Xavier. "And weren't you also talking about how the trees are connected through their roots?" "Oh, yes," said Cleo, "that was amazing." Xavier gave a little chatter and fluffed his feathers. "Can you see how you are connected to all of that?" he asked. Mused Cleo. "I feel like I'm connected to all of that, but I'm not sure how to describe it." "Yes," said Xavier, "it can be difficult to explain. Let's see if I can help. Think about your body. Are your fingernails connected to your kidneys?" Cleo thought for a minute, not sure where this was going. "Well, they aren't directly connected, I guess, but they are all part of my body." "Yes, that's right," laughed Xavier. "You don't even really think about it at all, right? They're connected through your body systems and you don't really think about it. Now, what about your connection to the trees? Do you feel as connected to a tree as you do to your kidneys?" "Of course not," laughed Cleo. "Why?" asked Xavier. "Because they're separate from me," answered Cleo. "Ah," sighed Xavier, "the separation game. Your egoic structure is so good at giving you the perception that you are separate. Your perception comes from what you can sense in the physical world. But that is such a small part of the bigger, higher perspective. Let's go back to when you and Bacchus were talking about your chakras. You learned what those were, didn't you? Oh, yes, said Cleo. Those are my energy centers in my body. Absolutely, said Xavier. In fact, that's what your whole body is made of, energy. And that's what everything in the universe is made of, energy. And that's the same energy as all that is. So if everything is energy, then wouldn't everything be connected? That makes sense that it would be, said Cleo. So, continued Xavier, how would you be connected to all of the other humans? I guess it would be through the energy, answered Cleo. Exactly, said Xavier. So how can you acknowledge that connection and make it stronger? Let's play a new game. Cleo, have you ever resented someone for spending money that you didn't have? Or have you ever felt resistance when someone you work with got a raise and you didn't? Or have you ever been jealous when you saw a couple in love and you were alone? Well, to be honest, I have done all of those things, said Cleo. And that's okay, Cleo, said Xavier. No judgment here. Part of the game of separation from all that is. And you are all very good at it. Now remember that everything is made of energy. Everything. And all of what we just talked about is energy too. So, when you resent, resist, and are jealous, you are only really blocking energy, because energy can't flow where there's resistance. Now, let's play the next part of this game. And this part is all about allowing and receiving, so it's fun. Imagine that person who is spending their money. Now be happy for them. Say yes, because that opens the flow for that energy to also come to you. Imagine the person who just got that raise. Woohoo! Be happy, because that opens the flow for that energy to flow to you. You get the point. When you release the resistance, you allow that energy to flow to you as well. Isn't that cool? Oh my, said Cleo, I have never looked at things that way before. It makes a lot of sense, and more than that, it feels right. Indeed, said Xavier. Now one final part of this game. Oh, such fun. Now feel your heart. You can put your hands over your heart if you want. Now feel your heart connected to everyone else on the planet. Say to yourself, every heart on the planet has love for me. Every heart on the planet has love for me. And I have love for every heart on the planet. Now feel your brain. Feel your brain connected to every other brain on the planet. Say to yourself, every brain on the planet is working for me, inventing for me, coming up with new solutions for me. Every brain on the planet is working for me, and my brain is working for everyone else on the planet. And Cleo, when you can feel that, it is absolute, pure abundance. And it's there for everyone who chooses it. And because it's all energy, there's enough for everyone. Because energy never goes away. It just changes form. Wow, said Cleo, that just blew my mind. Yes, said Xavier, I thought you would like that. And there's more. It's not just the other humans. Everything on the planet is working in your favor. All of nature, the water, the animals, the plants, everything. Say it with me. Everything on this planet is working for me, and I am working for everything on the planet. Feels pretty good, huh? Cleo was smiling so broadly you could feel the energy from her aura expanding. She got it in spades. But one question, Xavier, asked Cleo. How am I working for everything on the planet? What do I have to do? Xavier chirped a few trills of glee and said, You're doing it now, Cleo. You're living in joy. And that's all you have to do. It's so easy and so much fun. Hasn't everyone on this adventure told you to be sure you are having fun and living in your joy. Lighten up, as they say. It's supposed to be fun. Cleo was laughing and feeling so connected. What an amazing game, she thought. Bacchus smiled at Cleo and let out a laughing grunt. He looked up at Xavier and said, "Xavier, that's an amazing lesson. Thank you for what you've shared with us all." Cleo looked up and said, "Yes, Xavier, that's a lesson I will never forget. Thank you so much." Xavier trilled and said, "Cleo, we are all here for you always in every moment. You only need to ask for our help, and we will be there." Then he hopped up to another branch to start foraging again. Thank you for joining me. Have a fabulous day.